We're recording. So Tim, thank you for making the time. I know the time difference is a bit different, but thankful for you to join. And again, I don't think there's much of an introduction needed. Basically, everyone on Farcaster is using it. I keep talking about it and giving shameless plugs, but yeah, if you want to give yourself an introduction and what you're building, that'd be great.
Yeah, so Tim Riley, I'm TLDR on Farcaster. We've John Pasthume at pasthume.eth and maxp.eth on Farcaster. Um, we've been building Bracket on Farcaster for about a year and a half now. And Bracket is a sort of a social sports trading games and community that right now is centered on Farcaster. And we also, at the beginning of this year, we released an AI agent, Bracky, who manages his own account on Farcaster and is able to bet against users in an autonomous way from inside of the feed. And so we're actually working on expanding Bracky to into Twitter as well. That's on our near term roadmap.
So I didn't even realize that Bracky's trading against the public. That's
Yeah.
news to me, and I think you know pretty well that I use it very frequently. So that's
Mhm.
interesting. I didn't even realize that. So I think what would be cool for those that aren't using it or that aren't really familiar with sports betting or sports in general, talking a little bit um, about the process of like how Bracky operates. So just to backtrack, I think it'd be really cool. How did it develop? Because I can't even imagine Bracky without the AI agent. So where was it prior to Bracky being created?
Yeah, dude. So let me. I mean, they're both they're both great questions. Do you think we should? Would it be good to begin with sort of explaining how the AI is working now, or do you want to kind of go back to the original thing, which kind of still exists? Like they dovetail together.
Okay,
Um,
I
I could tell
probably
you
the
like what we.
latter.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Cool. So last year we launched bracket.game. Um, and this is, you can just imagine like a stock market listing of just like a bunch of teams that are in a tournament and then a bunch of prices of those teams. So the first thing that we ever did actually was the NFL playoffs in 2024. So this is the first bracket ever. And the way that it worked is that like all the teams had prices at the beginning. These were all bonding curves, and you could come in and just see like, oh, the price of the price of the Chiefs is 300 DGen, and we use DGen at first. So like
Got
price
it.
of the Chiefs like 300 DGen a share. Price of the Eagles is like 200 DGen a share, and so forth. And you come in and you're like, you can just make a portfolio of teams, and then you can trade in and out of those teams as the playoffs advance. So we actually were building this, like the original thought was, and you can see the continuity of this is like the original thought was like John and I especially are just like huge college basketball fans growing up. We're from Louisville, Kentucky, so like don't have sports teams. It's all about the U of L
So
basketball
are
team.
you okay? So you weren't a Wildcat. You were Louisville all the way.
No, no. Like I would say that the UK was uh like if UK beat U of L, like I wouldn't go to school the next day. I mean, I just like it was such an intense rivalry. I hated UK. Like I just like never even wanted to
So you love Rick
set foot
Pitino
in
then?
Lexington.
You're a
I
bit.
had a
Is Rick Pitino? Is Rick
but
Pitino your boy? Do you love Rick?
Rick's my boy. I love
Because
him.
he used
Like
to be the
I
Kentucky head coach, and then he went to Louisville. Yeah, what a legend.
I hated him when I was a kid. And then, U of L's program was really struggling. So I loved him when he came. And he really he turned the program around. And I was really upset when we lost him. The program has suffered a lot since then. But anyway,
Anyways, yeah,
huge
sorry.
college basketball fans. No, 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 no. John and I were we Friend Tech had come out, right? And Friend Tech's like these bonding curves where you can kind of like trade people like stock prices, right? And so we saw this and we were like, it would be cool to fork that contract and just and turn it into like a a way to trade like the bracket for March Madness. And so that was our original concept. Like we literally forked Friend Tech's smart contract. And by the time we were done with it, it was like 1% like the original, but like it got us started. And wouldn't that be fun to just sort of I show up and there's just all these teams that I love and I can see prices of them and I can trade. Um, so that was the original bracket idea. We ran the test net for NFL playoffs. Um, yeah, dude, like the discovery for us, right, was because we built this on Farcaster. Like we didn't originally think of it as like a social thing primarily. This is such a cool part of our story. We were just like it'd be fun to see a friend tech for that. But because we launched into Farcaster, everybody was signing in with their Farcaster, and you could see in the activity feed that, Perp rugged the Vikings, that Garrett loaded even more shares of the Eagles, right? And we're just like seeing all these people that we know doing these things. And besides John making an incredible kind of like trading interface, the discovery for us was like we knew sports were social, but we didn't know that we could make the sports experience so social until we just saw it on Farcaster. And we saw it used with the social graph, and like all of the fun was around that piece of it. So I always like to kind of mention the way that building on Farcaster, for us, there's just these fortuitous side effects that happen, right? When you start building on a social graph, unexpected things start to reveal themselves. So yeah, then this trading app, we had this trading app, and then we start putting we had like a huge March Madness. Our prize pool, dude, like I wish you were here for this era, man. DGen's taking off. 2024, like February, DGen is like absolutely taking off. When we launched our bracket for March Madness using DGen, the price was like a tenth of a penny. And everything we predicted for our bonding curves and like what would make sense was like around being around that price. It got to like during March Madness, it went from like a tenth of a penny to like 6 cents.
Oh my God.
So this is like a
The
50,
payout
a
is
50
insane.
yeah, like a 50x of the currency that we were using. And it was actually really cool because like we were like, it was this like we discovered it was the Farcaster social thing. And again, like the Farcaster thing is like, hey, dude, how cool would it be is like if we use DGen instead of USDC, like people would have fun with that. And so like our prize pool, I can't remember the exact number, but our prize pool for the bracket, it was like 10 times ESPN's prize pool size. It was like $500,000.
That's
So we just like
unbelievable.
we throw this thing out there and it just skyrockets with DGen's price, right? And so it's just crazy. Like everybody's having fun. Like we did we had like 5% fees on each trade. And so we did like $100,000 of revenue on this,
But just on
just
one
kind of this,
tournament, yeah.
just on this experiment on Farcaster, like having fun. It was an incredible, like there's so much around, like there's so many stories from this era, like DGen, like, we needed money on our bonding curve to back like the shares that were there. And like we had calculated for it to be a tenth of a penny, right? And now it's like 6 cents. So like, Yasik gave us like this big grant that we could use, like that was in the front. It was just like the community coming together, like so many people helping us, like it was awesome. So that was like kind of our bracket moment, which I think for us was like as much about Farcaster as it was about what we were doing.
I didn't even put into thought the fact that you're a startup. I'm assuming bootstrapped at this point because it's experimental. This price skyrockets. You're budgeting for X, and then it turns out to be a significantly different Y. And you're looking at John and Max and saying, "Dude, I don't know how we're going to come up with this money." So
Yeah.
you're like, I got to go to Yasik and say, "Hey, we kind of didn't anticipate this price action, so throw us a bone,
Yeah.
basically." You know what I
And
mean? But
dude,
Yasik is
I
so
think
cool. The community's so
he's
cool. Everyone's so yeah. Oh, that's so awesome.
yeah, like even more than that, like uh there was this thing called the DGen DAO. Like I don't know if you've gotten to know those those uh those people yet, but like
I haven't.
this was like a DAO that launched, and like they had bought a lot of DGen and like locked in a vault and gave grants and stuff. So this is run like running this is Perp, uh and he's a friend of mine. Like he's a huge Vikings fan. I'm a huge Vikings fan. Like we had fun around this, and also like Kojo was really active in there, and they saw what was happening, and they had loved using the NFL bracket, and they did a community without, dude. I didn't ask anybody, right? Like I like talked to people about what was going on, and I was like, oh shit, like what are we gonna do? And and it was just like they made a proposal like let's grant like 5 million dgen to bracket for they're using dgen, they're showing that apps can use the currency. And I think that 5 million dgen was like it was like $200,000 or something at the time that they did. I mean, it's just like so it was just like this crazy that for me was, I don't even know if Kojo and Perp are fully aware of this. Like I've thanked them a lot for it, but like that was one of these moments where you just as an entrepreneur you feel like you're doing everything alone, you and your teammates, right? Like it's just you, and everything's like super hard, and you have all this risk and responsibility, and just like people coming in and just doing something to help out because they love what you're doing, they believe in you, like that meant so much to us. Like I was just like, this is crazy, incredible, like how it was helpful, proactive. It was like a game changer for us. So yeah, there was just like so much cool stuff that happened in that era.
Yeah, and I mean, just touching on it, I feel like being an entrepreneur, a founder in any case, you feel like you're on an island, and there's so many. I would say, I would argue that the most difficult part about being on that island is your lack of access to capital in so
Yeah.
many different ways, right? And it's not just a matter of, the old school traditional way. I can't believe I'm calling it old school now, but like, if you have to go raise capital, you have to go to the very few channels that are out there, which are the, YC like accelerators, the Andreessens, applying for grants, but the archaic method, like pre Web3, it's very challenging. And to see something like this where you're not even really asking for it, but the community loves it, they see the opportunity to just help. And I don't know how long it can last, to be frank, because Farcaster I think is such an anomaly of like how special the culture is. And I know you and I talk about it all the time. And it's not this like
Totally.
disingenuine like feeling. It's very authentic. Like when you post on Farcaster and you're saying how amazing it is, it's not it, at least from getting to know you a bit and just being around, the people that are actually talking about it aren't like clickbait. It's not for clickbait and for likes. It's genuinely like, this is such a special place. And stories like that
It
are a
is.
testament to how cool, even for me, not to like, go down this rabbit hole here, but like I started 2 months ago, and to be able to sit here talk to
That's
you, but it's not like an unfamiliar conversation. Like I feel like you're a genuine friend. Like love talking to you, love being a part of like the community, but it's because of people like you, where you get this like you get this sense of pride for being a part of something early, but it's also because of how cool of a community that it's becoming. And I still feel early, but you're telling me about stories in 2024, which feel like probably for you a lifetime ago, considering how much bracket has progressed. But
It does, man. And you would have loved this era too. I mean,
yeah,
it's I um y- you're just such a, yeah, I mean, we just like became, I can't believe that you've only been here for a couple of months because it just like we became friends so quickly and you're so active in our community. But like to your point about capital, um I think that it's there is a I think Dan really sets in Farcaster what feels like an early YC vibe where Paul Graham, like early on, like I think it was crazy. It was like $25,000 checks for like 7% of the, there was just like an insane, like you didn't get a lot of capital early on. It's like get to ramen profitability. A lot of that has changed for like the people who get in there. And I think that your point about capital is that there's this very, um, there's this kind of balance between you know being bootstrapped and not having the full war chest really makes you fight for what you have and get clever and and like get you know have ingenuity about how you're getting out there and like building in a lean way. It certainly it can go too far where it can kill projects that just didn't get quite enough runway or didn't have enough to do like the exact thing that would have made sense. And I think that in Farcaster, there's really this sort of like uh, you can get your first 10, 100, or 1,000 real users. You know what I mean? And it's like I feel like I feel like it's valid to say, look, like go do that before somebody's going to write you a big check. Like prove that you can at least get 10 people, 100 people, 1,000 people to use the thing that you built, right? I think that that's like a healthy challenge for a team. And so like there's this way that Farcaster provides the one thing you really need, which is people who are willing and supportive and present for trying out new stuff and returning if they like it. And so that's the I think though that Jeff, to your point, is that you can get that, but then like I think with the startup radar mission, right? Like a healthier environment of turning that into capital, for for people who believe in Farcaster, because like, dude, I talked to when we made 100K, right? I had all the VCs like coming to us during this bracket moment, right? Like that was like a big moment. And I remember talking to all the bigger name VCs. It was a lot of like, okay, but like, how does this get outside of Farcaster, right? And it's a very valid question, but I think that like it's still rare to find the VCs who are like, okay, I want to make like a levered bet in the sense that I'm going to bet on not only you, but also Farcaster, right? Like I've got to like make this bet on Farcaster kind of through you. And I get it from their perspective, but having capital that believes in Farcaster kind of more present, I think would be a huge benefit to the builders around here.
there's so many things that you just touched on that are so important for whoever's listening, whether it's now or later. But because I still consider myself an entrepreneur and a founder just by starting Startup Radar. And one thing that you said that I think is so important is Farcaster provides you something that no one else really can, and that's an audience. an audience that's willing to take a like chance on you and like your brand or your product solution, whatever it is. And you see overnight success too. And I mean this in a healthy way, but just looking at and this is no shade at all to Tippin, but like looking at Noise and looking at what they're able to accomplish like overnight, that's a healthy thing that I think should show people that there was no, I'm not sure how much backing they had, and I don't know what the VC presence was for Noise. I'm having them on later, but like just understanding what their dynamic and what their journey was, and I'm willing to believe a lot of it was just from relying on the Farcaster community like Bracket. And what that tells me, and what I try to tell, so I'm a part of the QuickNode accelerator program. So like I'm a mentor to, people that are creating new blockchains or new dApps, whatever. And, there's a lot of young entrepreneurs and it's their first time doing a raise. And so they'll say, hey, like, I'm coming in and I want to raise $1 million with giving away 10% of equity. And I go, great. Well, the first question that I have to ask you is like, what are you doing with that money? Because that's what the VCs are going to ask. That's what the angels are going to invest or ask is like, what are you doing with the money we're investing in you? And walking them back. And this is what I think is so special about Bracket is like you were resourceful and you had to be innovative in your approach of how to utilize the capital that you have on hand, bootstrap yourself to then create revenue so that you can prove that the model works, build an audience, retain an audience. And then what happens, and it's the best thing that you said, then the VCs came to you. So the thing that's so beneficial about Farcaster is the fact they're giving you a platform. They're making it incredibly cost effective for you to build what it is that you're building, immediately giving you a target audience. They're all Web3 native for the most part. So they understand how to interact with your application or protocol. Like all of the things that Farcaster are doing is for the benefit of a founder. And so to your other point about VCs, if they are not really sure about Farcaster, but they're sure in you, then it's equal, same, equal. Like if you're sure on the founder, then you are sure in Farcaster, right? If I'm taking the time to build here, that's because I have the ability to have the foresight and the vision of like, hey, this is where my audience is. I'm going to build it for them, and then I can scale out. Of course, you're not, pigeonholing Bracket or just to stay within this little echo chamber. But this is the best place to create an MVP.
And Jeff, I think there's a lot to build on there, where I think that Farcaster is going to have a major breakout app. Like it will happen. We could argue that like it's like kind of happening with Banker. It's kind of happening with Clanker, right? Like, but I think like breakout in the sense of like at least everybody in crypto Twitter knows about that thing, and like ideally beyond that, right? Like it goes out into a wider audience, and I think that the thing that has made that much more likely within the last year, like even if I think of where we were in early Bracket, is server wallet. The server wallet infrastructure, which essentially, just to describe it to people who might not be familiar, it's just like the ability to spin up a wallet for a user before they've even come to your site. You can spin up a wallet on their behalf. So like, I'll give you an example. For Bracky, who you can bet sports with in feed, when Bracky's on Farcaster and when he's on Twitter, we can spin up the wallet that has Bracky funding in it that user can use to make sports predictions in the feed. They can book the bets. It's being sent. Your winnings are being sent. And we can do all of that optimistically without the user ever leaving the feed and coming to our site, right? So your magical experience can be, you're on Twitter, you tell your friend about Bracky, you're like, dude, yeah, bet the Celtics with like at Bracky. And Bracky's like, hey, would you like to bet? I put 100,000 Bracky into your wallet. And you're like, sure, I'll put it all on the Celtics. Good. This is how many shares you have. right? If you win, this is what you will get. All that happens in the feed because we have these wallets that we spun up and generated on our server. And then that can only be claimed by, at Jeff's friend. The Twitter handle has to authenticate. Then they claim that wallet. It's custody to them. But we're directing all of this optimistically for them without them ever coming over. Now they load up that wallet with more if they want to keep trading in feed. So no transactions are actually happening within the feed, but it all feels within the feed to the user. And I think that, that's what Banker is doing for how they're letting people send and sell and buy and receive inside of the feed on Twitter. And I think that this is the kind of thing that like there's gonna be breakout apps like using this kind of technology that allows people to get into other platforms. So it's like Farcaster can serve for right now as this proof of concept and this place to iterate and discover your real product that works, right? But then if you want to reach a bigger audience, you'll have figured everything out that you want to do to win in that bigger platform. Isn't that the best part
though? Isn't that such a benefit, the amount of benefits that you receive from starting small? And that's where I think founders have this impression of, I'm starting a company, I need to raise money, it needs to be at least 7 figures, and if so, that's the only way I can really scale. Where you're a prime example of and maybe going back to the beginning of Bracket, how much did you raise? If even if you even did raise.
We hadn't raised. We were totally just funding ourselves.
That's my point.
A little bit of money. Yeah, we had.
And I'm not saying Bracket has become the breakout app that we keep referring to yet, but it's the fact of the matter that you are able, if you have an idea, you have to be resourceful as a founder. This is not just some walk in the park or some magic fairy comes down and grants you $1 million. You have to get in the mud. You have to grind a little bit. And it's not so for all of these people, for the past couple of people that I've had on the show, there's a common trend among all of them. They had to grind. And I think that's something that they only see the success that you all have had, right? They don't see all of the benefits of being they see all of the benefits, but not the grind, the struggle and setbacks that you had to endure, right? Yeah. And that's a problem for the culture of being a part of startups, is you think it's just handed to you. And that's why you see so many ideas never even come to fruition. But again, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I just want to build on what you're saying, in that I think that founders think that the missing ingredient is money, right? But actually, the missing ingredient is distribution. Right, this is so hard to understand until you start to try to get people to use a product, right? There's the old saying, first time founder, focus on product, second time founder, focus on distribution. There's this sense when you get started that I'm going to build something that's so fun that people are just gonna. And this sometimes happens, right? But it's very, very rare that it's so fun. If you build it, they will come, right? And that's the focus on the product. And I need the money that me and this great product team, we can go into the garage and just giga brain this incredible experience. And then when we come out with it, it's just going to blow everybody away. And I think that, it happens 1 out of 1,000 times, but the truth is that you think you need money to do that and to create the time to do that. And actually what you need is for anybody at all to care at all about what you're building. And the funny thing is, Jeff, that you and me having talked sports on Farcaster in the feed, if I do some little experiment, you're going to be fuck yeah, I'll try that out, right? Tim built something, let's have fun with that, and I'm going to get my friend to do this, and this is that's the spirit, is people tinkering around with interesting stuff. And dude, that's the funny thing, is that that's more valuable than any of that funding that you would have raised, is just people who are going to be willing to genuinely give this thing that you built a shot. And it doesn't even have to be great yet, right? They'll play around with it and you can see if there is anything there. And so this is like, just, I think that you can't, you cannot pay for that spirit, right? Like, you can't pay for people who are like that. You can't get them on Twitter, right? It comes from forming a like sincere relationship with just a density of good people, right? And so I just think that this is a way that Farcaster, I compare it to um, early YC had this incredible thing where for SaaS companies, they built these customers, which is every other previous YC company was a built-in customer set for every SaaS business, every B2B software business that was being started in like the kind of early mid 2000s, right? So like they had built that, and that was like this thing they provided off the shelf that was really invaluable. And I think that Farcaster has created this for consumer crypto founders, where it's like you can come in and just be genuine for a few months, like meet people, hang out. You can't just come in as like having never casted and knowing no one and like just think everybody's gonna, want to do your thing
Interact
immediately.
and
You
yeah,
do
it's a bit of a
you
grind.
need to
It's
form like you.
hard.
Yes, totally, dude. And I actually I have thoughts and tips of like what I would advise for people to like, how do you get yourself genuinely involved in Farcaster? But like putting in a little bit of sincere work on Twitter, you're not going to get that, dude. It doesn't matter how sincere you are and how much you grind. You're not going to find people who care about you on Twitter and who care about, trying out what you're building. So like Farcaster is providing something I just would say is more valuable than money for early stage consumer crypto products.
A couple of things that you talked about that I want to touch on as well is the fact that like when you were referring to going in the garage, gigabraining a project, turning it out to be this amazing, product or service or whatever, I think there's one missing thing that Farcaster offers. It's offering you the ability to innovate. It's offering you the ability to like really think on your toes about how to gain and retain an audience. But the thing that's so special about it is you're not just handed a check, right? So if you're getting that money, what are you going to do with it, especially as a first time founder? Do you know how to like manage your book? Do you know how to like keep the run rate so that you can keep the lights on? Like there are so many things that I think are like the rite of passage for being a founder. And this is coming from someone that has never even successfully launched a company. This is just observation really from the side, is seeing like what's the missing ingredient among founders that like are successful and are not. The ones that are just handed the check,
Yeah.
they may be able to have a like flash in the pan moment, but the ones that really endure and sustain learn the lessons along the way of the value of that capital that they're receiving, whether it's just from the revenue generated or from the equity for the capital they're receiving for equity. Like, how is it that they're able to like manage themselves, but also understand the value of what they're receiving? So I think Farcaster is giving you this platform where you are building, but you have to be resourceful. You're getting, if you have a good product and you have a good service, they will come. To your point, like build it, they will come. But it's making you work for it simultaneously, which I think is also very special. Even from like the ground level of building an audience, building like your name within Farcaster, it is not easy. One of the things that I keep being not combative, but like debating with Ted is one of her challenges right now is like, how do I bring people to Farcaster, but then also how do they get to build their audience? Because if you look at products like TikTok, you can get an audience very quickly there. Okay, I understand that. But, I got flack for it. I commented under one of her posts and I was like, this is a good thing. In my opinion, it should be difficult. And then everyone immediately under is like, oh, well, it helps when you get a shout out from Ted right away, doesn't it? And then I'm like, okay, but you also don't see the fact that I leveraged that, right? Like Ted gave me a shout out. And I think after the first couple of days, I got like 200 followers, right? But I leveraged it where they don't see the amount of hours that I'm spending on Farcaster. I think it's like disgusting, and I'm afraid to admit that like I'm spending, you know, like 8 to 10 hours on Farcaster. Like that's awful, you know, like, but that's also what it takes to like, and I'm not
Yeah.
even saying that I've made it, but my point is like, you have to take these steps. Like my podcast, I hope I get 5 viewers on this. You know what I mean? But you got to start somewhere, and you can't look at like the metrics. I hate getting into the data, especially starting out, because if you get into your head psychologically, like, oh, I only have like 1 viewer this episode, it's like, all right, well, then you're defeated because it's not the point. The point is to build something that you believe in, and then other people will become attracted to it, similar to what Bracket was at one point. And I'm ADD, I get looped around, but one thing I want to get back to is the journey of Bracket. We got sidetracked here, but I want to talk about like the the development of like making a market, showcasing that to your audience, but then how Bracky, the agent, was able to take that responsibility over. How did you guys craft that?
Yes. So we ran brackets like the one I was describing, kind of trading markets on live sports events. So we went like right from March Madness, like as we've talked about, like right into the Masters, right into the NBA playoffs. Like it was just kind of hitting every event. Um, and and in that process, like what we learned was that people who were using Bracket were having a great time. But when we would have them bring their friends into that product, the onboarding process, somehow it was like this thing that was hard to learn. Even though I described it, it's like it's difficult to describe, but like when you watch the onboarding, like no matter how many modals we made, etc., it was having trouble growing word of mouth. Like our retention was fantastic, but the growth into it was difficult. And so we were thinking like, we know we have something fun around kind of social sports trading. And with the agent, I was watching, sort of what was going on with like Truth Terminal and AI XBT and in Farcaster Clanker, and there was an AI agent called Ethernet by Martin, which was all these experiments on AI like LLMs agents that were running kind of semi-autonomously running public accounts. And I think we got excited about how can this be a way for us to meet users where they are, right? They're hanging out in the feed, right? So instead of having to like drive new users to our app and our site, like if we can just meet users right where they are, right? And then give them like a fun experience of just taking an action that is social sports betting, right? Take that action just immediately where they are. And so we would be solving this problem of how do we get people into social sports betting experiences with, by meeting them where they're at and taking them from a 0 to 1 experience as smoothly and like at scale as possible. And so really, there's the first time product, second time distribution sort of phrase about founders. I think for us, it was like, it was the even within a startup, you can get more and more focused on distribution. And so for us, the AI agent, it was seeing how fun a lot of these experiments were that we were playing with, especially in Farcaster. And then seeing like, hey, this could be a really innovative, fun, exciting way for us to distribute what we're building better, right? So the thing is, Jeff, like you've probably seen the bracket community. There's a lot of like, when's the old bracket gonna come back? And for us, it's like we're spinning up, Bracky spins up a prediction market for every bet he makes against you. There's also existing brackets. These things, like you can book it from our early bracket app. Like you could book to that prediction market. You can buy and trade and bet using that app, or you could do it with Bracky in the feed. So it's really the same thing, but the agent is a different way and a different experience of distributing the same sports prediction market. But like eventually, like what we will do is have the integrated system where like you could go in and trade just like on Bracket and have this easy experience of doing it from a site or an app, mini app on Farcaster or website if you're doing it from somewhere else. Or you could be doing the agent. Like our theory is that people's first experience is probably going to be with the agent because you're seeing other people do it. You can discover it that way. You can go from 0 to 1. But then you discover, oh, like there's this place where if I want to like be really efficient and, you know, fast and make sure it's happening and I don't want to do it in public, I can go do it in this other space. So all this stuff, kind of like the original Bracket and Bracky blend together. We've in order to focus on that distribution product, we're challenging ourselves to not lean on the previous Bracket product while we figure out the Bracky experience. So this is another one of those things of making yourself kind of earn it and constraining yourself is like, we believe that Bracky experience already is a lot of fun and we're only 1% or 10% of the way of like where we can be. And so we're just totally focused on making that amazing. And then after that's amazing, we're going to re-enable like the Bracket trading app that we had.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And the reason why I was really asking is because prior to, I didn't get to experience it without Bracky. So I was curious as to like who was making the markets. Like, did you already have some AI feature on the back end that was allowing you to trade against the bettors? Like, because I was just like, is John or like Max or Tim just sitting there like every time a trade comes in, they have to place in manually like the opposite side of that trade. So yeah, that's where I was like, how are you guys doing that?
So yeah, so Bracky is actually booking all the trades now. And a change for us, Jeff, is that we used to have a bonding curve set up. Like that's the Friendtech version. And actually, like, because of the election in November and just like the direction that things are taking, just from a regulatory perspective, like we got comfortable and excited about prediction markets. So we actually starting in November, like not only went to AI, right? We made some like big changes. Like we not only pivoted like to building an AI agent, at the same time, we also redid our backend into prediction markets rather than bonding curves. And the distinction there is that in a prediction market, it's really about like the prices and liquidity is emerging from just the community's actual appetite, you know, the supply and demand of what people in the community want. So the Bracky betting against you is that Bracky's allowed. We're focused on the big markets right now, but like our first version that we played with was Bracky can create his own prediction market. So you can come to Bracky and say, yo, Bracky, I want to bet on the Celtics, you know, winning game 5. And or let's do a better example. I want to bet on the Wolves winning game 5. Right? So Bracky can, you know, me and you, this is the one that applies to us. So like Bracky, I can do that in feed, and Bracky can say, okay, here's the odds I'll give you. And here's the fun thing, dude. You haven't even seen this because this experiment happened like right before you came.
What?
Yeah. Yes. So the fun thing is that Bracky can then negotiate with you about the odds that he'll give you. That starts the prediction market. And then anybody else can come in and participate in that after it's up. So like you can actually bet against Bracky and negotiate. So you can say like, oh, this doesn't make sense to me. Will you do this? And he can say yes and no. We don't even know what he would do.
So
That
even
spins up an
so,
initial prediction.
so
Yeah.
even okay, we're talking about game 5, which is more macro. Could I say to Bracky, hey, Josh Hart in the Knicks and Pacers series right now is going to score over 12 points in this next game? It'll create a market for that.
Yes.
That is
Yes.
so. And one thing I want to
Yes.
point out too that I think is really awesome that you guys have decided is going the prediction markets route, because as a start, like one thing that I was thinking about, especially early on from using it, is like, how the heck are they getting away with being essentially like a casino, right? Because if you were to become a sports betting app like a FanDuel or DraftKings, you have to get so many different licenses to be able to practice whatever you're doing within the United States, especially. And that license costs millions and millions and millions of dollars. So, like, to break into that space is damn near impossible. So, on a
Yep.
regulatory stance, like, are you guys paying attention to? I'm sure that's at the top of mind, is making sure that nothing's changing on the hill of like affecting prediction markets.
Percent. I mean, it for us, prediction markets are a regulatory bet of a direction that so the new CFTC commissioner, Brian Quintence, was basically on the he was an advisor at Kalshi, on the record of like prediction market event contracts, particularly in sports, not being equivalent to gambling, right? So like the news, like this is basically where that regulation is happening. The new CFTC commissioner just seems super friendly to it. Like, I think there's a lot to that argument. There are no laws on the books. There's just guidance of what's happening right now. So like all this stuff is shaking out. The way that we think about it, Jeff, is that the beauty of this is that, early on, we thought that like the previous administration in the U.S. was like, had shown itself to be very adversarial to this type of primitive, the prediction market primitive. So we stayed away from it. We went down the bonding curve route and had like lots of ways that we figured out for that to work. Prediction markets are a much cleaner and more efficient and more scalable way to run these sorts of markets. And as soon as like we started to get like who's going to be appointed where, it was like, oh wow, like this looks like something that in the US, like the agencies think of this as something that's worth experimenting with, and they want to be supportive, or at least not attack people who are using that. So that hugely affected our kind of macro bet. The way we think about it in the longer run is that all of this stuff's undecided, but the way we think about it is like, if it gets to the point where we are a relevant concern for any of these agencies, we've gotten to the point where a lot of people love what we're doing. And we've gotten to the point where we can probably go get any licenses that we want through that like more arduous and expensive process. So it's like, it's again about like being able to play in this space and have the have the sort of blue sky to navigate and discover. And then we've proven to people who need to, fund that kind of transition for us that, hey, this is something that a lot of people love. It's worth it for us to go through all of that, all of those hoops. So I think, we approach it as like, there's just a lot of tailwinds to the prediction market primitive right now that we're like, we think that this is just the moment to go for it, right? 100%. Like there's just a moment where you can do this. And like, I think it's awesome. Like we've loved the transition. Was difficult because total restructure of our back end, but it's just a really efficient way to run this stuff.
And I think one of the things in side conversations that we've had, just talking about the vision in the long term for Bracket, I mentioned, I think one of our first conversations was like, yeah, because FanDuel, like, and you're like, I don't even want that audience, which I thought was really interesting. Is you're like, I don't want the big money from Vegas. I don't want the handicappers to come into this because of the things that we were discussing. One, like, it takes away the joy of it. If there's really sharp money, you kind of just, it just takes the fun of like the PvP aspect. Like the social element of Bracky is so fun, just being in the chats or on feeds, talking shit to Garrett or talking, and just being like, no. But if you add that element, it takes a lot of it away. And I think what's really cool is someone that has sports bet in the past and still from time to time will get on FanDuel. But, when you're going in and you see the odds that are already made for that game, it's not as fun, right? But if you know that it is completely weighted on the community that you're participating with, it makes it so much more fun. So, like, for example, the first round of the playoffs for the NBA playoffs, when we were both like, I think that's where we really bonded over the Timberwolves, is we were like, dude, LeBron does not have it. Luka, there's nothing there. But everyone in the community was like, we love Luka, we love LeBron, but we're the outliers where we're like, no, we really like the Timberwolves. So like that beginning where I think they may have been trading at like 190, and then the Lakers are floating around like 897 like shares or like per bracky. I think then you see the shift over time. Another element that I love about this is the time horizon. So if I'm placing a bet on the Timberwolves, right, like it only lasts for the duration of that game or that half or that quarter. But with this, you have a longer time horizon. So like right now, the Wolves aren't doing so well. The OKC, it feels like they have their number a bit. I hate to admit that. I think it's going to go to 7. Yeah. But my point is, though, is like, I am willing to let my shares sit in there for the duration. And then at the very end, I don't feel like the biggest loser of walking out with a 0. I can pull it out in the fourth quarter of game 7 if I feel like it's not going to happen. So there's really friendly things that people that want to participate in like the betting element of being a part of like sports cult, like it makes the game so much more exciting when you have some skin in the game. But the fact is it's not as like, it's not as dangerous, and it's not as like, not dangerous. I don't want to go that high. Like it's not, I don't want to be too high. Yeah. But there is this element of like, oh man, I really feel like a loser right now. The game's done, and it'll deter you from ever betting again. But I think with what Bracket has done is it's creating this environment of like, okay, I'm not losing all of my money compared to like what you would do if you were in Vegas or on a sports book. There's just so many different things that make it a socially friendly. It's not about the money. And that's what I think is so special about Bracket, is like, it is more of a community building thing rather than a sports betting thing or a predictions market thing. Even I think that you guys have crushed, you guys have killed it when it comes to building the community around something that you've built.
Yep. I think you're making something that's sort of at the heart of how we think of things, which is that, like, sports fundamentally are about having these fun, transcendent moments that we know everyone else is watching, right? Like, I mean, that's why we all love this stuff. If we were on a desert island watching these games and we would never be able to talk to anybody else about it, it wouldn't have the charge that it has. It wouldn't be like must-see events that we're all sharing together. And I think that the it's how can we use the social betting as a way to like charge up people's participation and interest in that. And so just to give you an example, like when Bracky launched on March Madness, because he was everywhere in the feed, and this is something I want to mention about distribution, because Bracky's a public agent and you have to go through the feed right now to make these wagers, every single post is an advertisement.
Yes.
Every single post is an advertisement, right? So my friend did this, now I can do that. Now we got so many people who, think about this, people people who are who have never watched college basketball, the odds of them ever just saying like, "Oh, March Madness, I'm going to go download FanDuel and make a bet," 0%, 0% chance they will ever go do that.
Especially with this audience too, especially.
Yeah, totally. So 0% chance, but we had so many people, right? I bookmarked a bunch of these because I was so happy to see it. It's like taking pictures of like watching the game, and it's like, I've never watched college basketball before. Like, go Gators, right? Like, this is amazing. Like, this Houston game is incredible. Like, I'm watching people who've like a net new fan of a sport because they could get in so easily, and it was just fun to have your friends doing this, and like some of your other friends were doing that. You can talk about it. You can see what everybody's doing. That's the real thing, right? Because I think all these, the gambling, the hardcore lovers of gambling, it's great, but I think all the apps are kind of like spending an insane amount of customer acquisition funds to go grab the same pool of users, right? They're basically spending money to get existing users to come from one app to another. The real thing, dude, is can we make a net new user and a net new experience for people who never would have done that, right? And that's like, that's where like meeting them where they are, making it social, dude, making it so that, you know, we give people Bracky. Like we have 30% of the Bracky token supply for the purpose of making these markets, providing liquidity for these markets in an efficient way. And number two, for just giving everybody these starter amounts that they can play around with.
That's how I got
and they can just have this, right?
That's
no
right.
risk, have fun using it.
And you know what's so cool? Sorry, go ahead. I keep cutting you off. Go ahead.
Yeah. No. Just that this piece of how can this whole thing be positive sum, right? Instead of zero sum, like, and you know, like whatever can go wrong about, and I'm not against it. I think like have fun with it. Like, it's incredible. We were talking about like your dad, like, you know, like just growing up around like the hardcore versions of this and like running auctions, and like I'm an intense fantasy player. All great, right? Like I have nothing against that, right? But doing this in a way that, what's like the minimal amount of risk and that people can take, that there's skin in the game and they're having fun and they're getting to know a sport. They're watching the game and they're into like, you know, the final plays, and they're screaming at the television and they're mentioning their friends. That's the thing, is like, how can we get to that, you know, for as many new people as possible? And so I think this
is the thing, Tim, that I think is so special, and I keep reiterating it, is like, as someone that has grown up around sports betting, that understands that culture, it's a true, like, it is a degen culture, like, to the fullest. Like, before Web3, like, that's a whole other level of degen. Prior to that, I would argue that sports betting and trading on leverage or trading on margin are like the two most massive degen things that you could do prior to this like Web3 world. And I think what Bracket has done so well is they've given a taste of what that environment is like, in like having skin in the game, but it's not in a degree that's going to like destroy you, right? I mean, it's up to you. Like, you could go put in a ton of but I don't think you're creating this environment of like true, like massive degeneracy. What you're doing is you're taking the skin in the game element. It's even more exciting to watch a game, but you've built a community around watching that game that is allowing people to feel like even more passionate about it. And another thing, talking about net new users, is the amount of people, like, because, you know, I spam my feed of just like, Bracky, how am I doing? Because that's the only way that I know, like, that I can really trade right now. So when I'm doing that, my audience is like, I get self-conscious. I'm like, they're either thinking I'm a true degenerate from like participating in this, or I'm spamming them, right? But I'm not, but this is where it's clever of how you've designed the agent. But the response has been from people that are like non-Westerns that would, to your point, never see college basketball or have even heard of it. You know, they're going, oh, because like Jeff XYZ is using Bracky, I'm now interested. Let me take a look. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. Like, there are many people that are doing it. So that advertisement feature that you guys have kind of incorporated with the agent, I think is so smart. But again, I cannot stress enough, the thing that is so awesome about Bracket is the fact that you're taking the element of sports betting and applying it somewhere in a very like the most healthy manner I think you could, and then making it about community. Because it's not like, dude,
Yes.
I'm putting in like 2 million bracky is like a lot for me. You know, like I don't want to go anywhere beyond that in a single event, because it's like then I'm sweating it. Why would I want to sweat like 20 million bracky on like one series? Like that just doesn't. I want to have fun, right? Like I don't want to be like, oh man, I lost $500 on that series. Like that's not. But that's the thing. That's not the environment that you've created. Everyone has their different risk appetite. I'm sure DGen Chad is like, if he's listening to this, would be like, dude, that freaking, like, you know what I mean? Like that Jeff kid, are you kidding? Like throw some skin in there, put some meat on that bone. But like the point being is like, you're not creating this like high, you know, like if you go on DraftKings or if you go on FanDuel, I'd argue, I mean, it's pretty predatory. It's like, oh, here's like a free bet to go leverage this parlay, which then ends up making you put like 70 to like, you know, I'm talking about my units, but like 70 to $100 on something that you never even thought you were going to put it on. Whereas this is very much like, here are your here are your markets. This is what you can choose. Best of luck for the 7-game series. Good luck. You know, and I think that element make it understated in what you guys have created, which I'm really a fan of, you know, because more often than not, if you're betting against the house is usually going to win.
Yes. Yes. And Jeff, I think that's the thing that the funny thing is that like, just to circle back to like, I didn't want to go to school when UK beat U of L, right? Like I'm in 5th grade and I'm just like, like, Dad, like I can't go in today. Right. Like, because I was talking so much shit to UK fans and like, who knows, like half UK, half U of L. And it's just like, I say this to say that like the ultimate skin in the game is really when it's like you put your reputation behind whatever thing you do, right? And I think that like the funny thing is that when you're tapping into like the public social element, and with Bracky, like, dude, we have not even scratched the surface of Bracky's ability to kind of loop in like, oh, like, you know, you just bet on this. Like, I see that your friend that you interact with a lot is the opposite, right? And then you guys go back and forth, like challenges,
and it's all on
rivalry.
the public forum. It's not private data that they're like pulling. It's all already out there. So doing things, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but like, hey, for us, like obviously we're Team Timberwolves. So being able to like Bracky to like post and say, here's Tim, here's Jeff, here's everybody supporting here, here's Garrett, here's everyone with, dude, like that element, you haven't even done it yet. But yeah, that is so cool.
It's exactly. So like the point with that is that, you know, once it becomes social, it's like the really fun thing. Like think about it, like the small bets with your friends that your other friends know about, and they laugh at the person who's wrong and like they give credit to the person who's right. That's the real thing, right? So it doesn't even have to be about like taking these risks that people can't afford to make it exciting. I think when this stuff becomes really private, then it can go to this place where you're only having fun if you're like risking something.
You're making a lot of money. Yeah.
Right. Dude. Where it's like that thing, like people risking more than they can afford is like, it's not the thing that we're excited about. Like what we're excited about is making sports, the fun of sports. It already is fun when you can get tapped into that social element. And just like the fun of the arena, the fun of like putting yourself in the arena by saying what you think is going to happen, like that. And these live moments, right? We're in the bracket chat every night. There's a big game going on. Like the live moments that you're a part of, dude. Cause you think about like, we're all binging these series at different times, right? But it's like sports is this thing that you have to be there. You have to be there at the critical moment. It's amazing. It's a shared thing that we can all like be there. And
that's
so we're just saying it's like, we're trying to kind of really ride the ride the coattails of sporting events, how fun they are when you make it social. And so we're just like trying to be all on that event to get people socially in it, to make it like something where it's live, we can all talk about it. And it's just like that's our real vision of what's fun and exciting. And I think Farcaster, to loop it back, kind of the tie a bow on the beginning, is just like being in a space where this is all of these properties we're trying to build, like make it social, meet people in the feed, right? Like create community. Like these are all just things that are so central to Farcaster's DNA that it kind of like became our DNA of what we're doing with sports. So we're really excited to figure out how to make that even more fun and sticky and incredible and meet people where they are, and then figure out how to bring that spirit, to other platforms and other places.
So I got to tell you, and I got to continue to sing your praises. In another life, prior to working in Web3 full time, I was working as a private wealth manager, got my Series 7, got my Series 66, put it in my mind, I'm going to LA and I'm going to go manage the assets of athletes and entertainers. So when I was there,
Wow.
all I cared about was building my book of business around the NBA. So I told you in another life I was a hooper, and I grew up in the DC area. There's a huge presence. There's a documentary called Something in the Water. It talks about the DMV experience of playing basketball. You have the greats like Kevin Durant that came out of here, Mike Beasley, Ty Lawson. Like there's a huge culture around basketball here. So had that pride of being an AAU kid that played here. And a lot of my friends went on to play in the NBA. So my thought was, I'm 5'9", I got a 19-inch vertical. I got a head on straight, I think. I'll just go to LA and I'll start managing the money of athletes. And while I was there, I was completely like, so my friend got drafted the same year. My friend got drafted by the Lakers and moved to the G League. He was a childhood friend, my teammate. So I got introduced to a groomsman in my wedding, this kid named Scott Machado. So he was the point guard for the South Bay Lakers, and his teammates were like Alex Caruso, Ivica Zubac, like all of these up and coming superstars. So my point being, not to name drop, I do not mean, but like I'm seeing all of these people in real time, go to all of their games, like be able to hang out with them, and build these relationships. But like I had a really bitter taste in my mouth about the NBA. And the culture there is really tough, not only for the athletes, but just the environment of like getting through. Like to be an agent in the NBA is like the most insane career path ever. Like the amount of grit, even for me, like I will be honest, like I took that route, COVID hits, and I used that as my excuse, but transparently, like that was a tough nut to crack. So I had this bitter taste in my mouth about the NBA and like about the culture around it, managing these guys' assets. They are a bunch of kids like calling at 2 a.m. like, yo, can I buy this Ferrari? I'm like, dude, what the, like, this is not reality. Yeah. But like the point being, I completely got deterred after I left during COVID to start, companies and like take the entrepreneurial route. I was so like done with the NBA. I couldn't, if there was a commercial with the NBA on, I'm not watching it. And I couldn't stand it. And it was my passion, my first love. Like if you were to talk to Stevie, my wife, she would say like, what's your first love? What was Jeff's first love? She would immediately say basketball. Like basketball is like a huge part of my life. And so, yeah, like I hated the NBA transparently. I think what they've created was like such a disgusting product, and it's all about like money and it's all about brands of the like person. Dude, the long and short of this is Bracket brought me back. And like, you can tell, like I'm in that chat every night. Really? And like, I love, because it's a fresh perspective. It's a bunch of people that don't know the NBA. It's a bunch of people that have never really taken the time, but because of the platform that you've built, it's bringing an audience with a fresh perspective into this that they're like green-eyed. They're green or they're wide-eyed and bushy-tailed where they're just like, oh my gosh, like how exciting of a game, and that has like brought me back to like loving sports again. So I'm telling you, like being genuine, like what bracket is doing, it's giving a new perspective and a new audience to the game. Whereas like if I'm trying to have conversations with my dad or my brothers that are like true handicappers, they'd be like, dude, I don't even watch the NBA. All I care about is college basketball. All I care about is football, maybe a couple MLB or NHL games. And so like talking to them, they're on a whole other level of understanding sports. They are following every player, every stat, every detail of an individual, and knowing the dynamics of like each team in each league. They breathe the stuff. But to have bracket, you can be a fair weather fan or like just a fair weather individual interested in sports. You don't have to be this diehard like a lot of people that are sports bettors are. So it's like this elementary level, which is not a bad thing at all. It's like you can be on the sidelines of like being in depth with understanding like these elements of sports that people aren't privy to, but still be in a like culture that is like fun, and they see the like positives of sports. They're not like these negative Nellies that are just sitting there like, my team just lost and I'm mad about it. It's like, I don't know. Long and short of all of this is like bracket has really brought me back into loving sports again. So I'm really appreciative of it.
Dude, that's I did not know that backstory about the NBA, because like you've been such a natural of kind of, just picking up on like who you like and like what's going on in the series. But that I do see what you mean. Like there's this, I don't know, turning the events into something that's social, and we're all kind of there for these moments, right? Like that's the thing, is like, oh, that was so crazy what happened, right? And I think that this is I hadn't thought about what you said, but like the virtue of being in these spaces where people are just loving the event as a great event, which is what these sports games are, right? Like I didn't think about how much like recruiting new people who aren't like previous bettors and diehards and experts, like it gives you this just kind of like almost childlike enjoyment.
Exactly. Dude, that's exactly what bracket has created. And I like, dude, you know how much I love bracket. But it's like brought the joy of sports again. It like brings me back to like being a kid and enjoying, just like it's nostalgic. But like the thing that's cool is like the environment and the community. This ties back to Farcaster, is you have a bunch of people that like actually don't know, and they go in with this like optimistic, like, I don't know, there's no like degeneracy attached to just the excitement around a sport that I think like you miss from like growing up, seeing the cold hard reality of what, like when you look at how the sausage is made in the NBA, it would like turn anyone away from that stuff, dude. Like it's such a grind. And those kids, I gotta say, the people that are playing within the sport, like I hate to say it, but like a lot of them do it for the money. And like a lot of those kids, you don't think about it. Like when you're watching them, you have no idea what the backstories are of the individual that are playing on those teams. And like the people that have their tentacles on them, they are a little business. I mean, think about it. SGA is about to go sign a $90 million deal. Like he's getting paid $1 million a game. You don't think that comes with strings attached? You know what I mean? Like the agents are one thing. The financial advisors are another thing. But the thing that really breaks my heart about it is you have the family members, the childhood coach. All of these people are like attached to that individual, and they expect a return from them because they got them out of the hood. They got them into that AAU program. They got them to those camps. They got them into like, they believe they got them into those colleges. And then now in the league, they're like, where's my kickback? And it's like, these are sixth graders at the time. I got the privilege when I was out in LA. I was coaching for a short stint. It was right before COVID, but I was coaching with Kenny the Jet Smith on TNT. So I was coaching, I was helping coach his AAU team, and you would see the like nature of some of the kids that were just studs, of like the attachment to it is like there's this pressure on them, and it stinks. Like there's this kid that was out in LA. Um, this kid Sky Clark. It was pretty public of what happened to him. He was the point guard at
Whoa,
Illinois.
dude, he played at U of L the next year.
Exactly. So Sky, I remember like I was coaching lacrosse, but I was also helping the basketball program at Oaks Christian, which is in Westlake Village in LA. And he was getting worked out as like a 7th or 8th grader by the head coach at Oaks Christian. And then I'm talking to the head coach and he's like, "Hey, like come in, help out. Like we're going to do some shooting drills or whatever." So I was just there to like give the kid some pointers. I'm not like his coach. I'm not trying to like say that I'm like any affiliation with him or even know him. But like think about this, like at the same time, Master P is in the gym like watching him play. And like you got yeah, dude, so like there's this like level, and then if you remember the story, he had to take a year off. And he had to like sit out for mental like, health reasons. And it's like
Yeah.
the level of stress and scrutiny that these like 16, 17-year-old kids go through just to get there is insane. And so like it takes the joy. So for me, it like kind of took the joy out of seeing the machine, you know what I mean? But then like going now and then like, so seeing bracket and seeing these people that are like, "Oh, I've never really watched the NBA, but like Oklahoma City played pretty well tonight." You're like, "Man, I could get used to this. Like, this is a cool breath of fresh air." So yeah, man, it's been really cool to be a part of bracket in that sense, where it's like you still have the community, you still have the excitement around the sport. You're not looking at how the sausage is made, so to speak. Like, it just kind of ties it all back to like what it's all about, which has been great. And I'm really pumped to see the other to the point that you keep making. Like, you're scratching the surface of like what bracket can do. And I think like we've thrown out ideas, and I think like so you guys are just scratching the surface with what the capabilities are. I mean, you could get really creative with different sporting events, and one of the things that I wanted to touch on with you is how going into the summer, you're about to approach July. And July, for people that don't know, is the most difficult time in sports. So you're going to face, I don't know how you did it in 2024, but like you're about to go through this lull of just nothing going on. Are you looking at that as like a time to build and start to iterate and take a breath? Or is that like, how do you approach going into July?
Yeah. Fantastic question. So last year we had the good fortune of it being the Olympics. So that was super. This this year, yeah, I think that what's fun, dude, what's fun is that bracket, in the same way that these Western sports, like we're watching people from India and Nigeria and Indonesia. Like, these are real people, and they're like staying up in the middle of their night, or their morning, like watching college basketball and NBA. Dude, the same works the other direction,
Yes,
right? Like,
dude,
so,
amazing.
like for us, it's cricket, soccer, F1, right? Like there's like all these amazing international sports, and it's like, let's have some fun with like non-traditional sports that's still like, at a super high level of quality. So like for us, and there are those communities who really want that for themselves, but then we can play around with that. So I think that like, sports worldwide, and, cool thing about Bracky that people don't realize is that like you can already book, you can both chat, analyze, and book your bets with Bracky in any language right now. Right. You want to like have all your conversations in Japanese with Bracky, and like off the shelf, right? Like it all works. And like I've talked to a bunch of people like who use it in Portuguese and Russian and Korean. And I'm like, what do you think? Like, they're like, it's awesome. Like it's really great. Right. So I'm super excited about like even playing around with like the foreign language, element of it.
So does it offer
yeah,
basically every major language? Does Bracky offer that?
Yeah. 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 So, I mean, that's kind of one of the superpowers of LLMs in general, is because they're trained on, the entire set of human knowledge, essentially, that like a lot of the internet is obviously written in these different languages. And it's just like at a very a very high level of like any language that's primary on, or that's popular on the internet, which is most of them, works really well. So yeah, I mean, there's that, Jeff, and I think that we are very much in a ramp up mode for uh for the start of the NFL, college football, college basketball, right? Like that, baseball coming to an end in early fall. So like there's so much going on in August. Like we always like to experiment by doing. So we always just want to have something active that's fun that people can be playing with. So we'll be doing non-Western sports during that time. Um, but but yeah, I think that there's also just like uh, a lot of infrastructural work that we can be focused on in like the lead up to that really just super fun time in the U.S.
Yeah. No, I mean, I look at the approach here and it makes sense because the amount of non-Western people that are on Farcaster, I think it's been shown that there's a ton. Um, but then additionally, like there are plenty of sports that they have that we do not pay attention to here in at least like the US. So being able to bring on like I'm more than excited and more than happy to start getting interested in cricket. I have no idea what the rules are, but I would be more. It's a simple Chat GPT question, like you can figure it out. And that would
Yeah,
be yeah.
and
So that'd be cool.
what I would put in is like F1 has become
Huge in the
extremely
West. Oh
interesting
yeah,
for yeah. Yeah. So like the following of it is still like primarily. So think about like that's actually like a really big opportunity because it's like everybody kind of like there's a lot of people who have seen Drive to Survive, and like it's like, oh, there's these cool personalities, like we kind of know how it works, but they're still not to the point of like watching the races. I really think that this could be like a a gateway into like, hey, I'm gonna watch, right, and talk about it with people, and like, so I'm super excited about F1. I also think there's just soccer leagues all over the world all the
yeah,
time, and
100%.
soccer. We did the Euros last year, dude. I got into soccer because of bracket, right? Like
That's
I
what I'm
was doing the
saying.
Euro Cup. I did it. I did your thing with the NBA. Like I had the same experience with the Euro Cup, and so it's just I think it's just a fun way to get into like a pure interest in a new sport. And yeah, I mean, I think that when people are like, do how are you guys, go back one of your earlier points, like how are you guys thinking about like competing with DraftKings? And it's just, again, it's like when I hear that question, it's like not the way we think of it at all. We actually think of our competition as our competition is not um not where else you would go bet, but we think of our competition as like, what other show are you thinking of watching this weekend, right? Are you maybe gonna like binge House for the second time, right? Or would it be fun to like watch the F1 race? Like that's how we think of it, is like this is an event that would be a really fun thing to just get into with your friends. And so
So
like our mindset is like, how can sports be unlocked for new fans? How can
I
different
feel
sport
so
events
embarrassed
be unlocked?
having to admit this, but I mean, you saw the screenshot I took the other night. I forget who sent the link, but like I had the Timberwolves. I think it wasn't OKC. It was the one before, but I had it with the bracket group text up, like sitting there on my phone, and the game's also on the TV at the same time. And I think like the reality is like tying the social aspect into the event is massive. Like if you had a frame that live broadcast and not that this is really possible, especially at this stage, but like live broadcasting with the chat going while paying like that, I mean, that's how I'm using it, right? So there's that one thing. One thing I wanted to ask though about F1, going back to F1,
Yeah.
is that's a very difficult market to make, right?
Yeah.
Because of the predictability in it. It's pretty obvious who the top 2 or 3 teams are going to be that win. So, question, not to put you on the spot, but one of the things that would be really cool, especially with like what I've noticed with, betting on golf, is when like I had in the PGA tournament, I had some of the lower guys, like I think it was who's the Swedish guy, Alex, I think it was Noren, who was going into the final round. He was neck and neck with Scotty Scheffler. Obviously Scheffler was going to win, but I'm like, there's value in that bet, right? So I'll hit that and see if he could climb and get close, right? Didn't, tanked, whatever, but like Rom would have been a good one, right? And as he's inching closer, maybe like, I don't know if there's more value to be extracted from those lower tiers. So like, for example, like a team that's at the bottom of the leaderboard, but if they climb from like a 10th to a 6th, and then that's how it ends, instead of me leaving with a 0, of course I can sell out. But like exploring that like element of the leaderboard of like finding value, you place that bet knowing they weren't going to win it all, but like seeing, hey, at the end result, if they climbed, then you should be able to get a payout from that as well. I don't know if that's something you guys have thought
Jeff,
about.
I think that this is where F1's a very this is where F1 is a very good opportunity for us to try out like Bracky's market making for like a variety of simultaneous markets. And this again is one of the powers, like, because if you think about it, like most prediction markets are run solely by like formulas. They're automated market makers, so it's like formulas that are determining the ratios. And spinning up new markets is like non-trivial for prediction markets. Now, if you have an agent who can access like the existing intelligence about something and come to its own determination, you can theoretically like start all kinds of niche markets in an intelligent way and manage those in an intelligent way with the agent. So like that, our vision is about like the agent is not just about distribution. It's like at the very, very front of the stack of like, it's the first experience you can have in public and it's social. It's also like take it all the way to the back of the stack of like, when do we spin up a new market? How do we know the right liquidity to provision? What formulas do we use? What speed? So F1, to come back to the F1 question, is a really good case for us to try like, okay, like can we do, a market on who's going to go to the pit first, between so and so, right? Can we do a market on like get in the top 6, right? Top 5, top 4, top 3, right? So like you can have like, your out of the money bets that could end up like, in the top 6 or the top 10, right? And so I think the variety there, and making those markets and making them, sort of efficient to spin up and to make, I think that to your point, F1 is a really good candidate for like playing around with that kind of stuff.
Got it. And that makes perfect sense, because it would probably be very difficult if you have a primary market to then have like a payout for the person that was in 10th and then climbed to 6th, right? Like that's pretty complicated. But if I'm an end user and I just say, hey, Bracky, like side bet, I think that Williams is going to climb the ladder and like get to the top 5, miraculously. Okay,
Yes.
great. And then they put 2 and 2 together, and then that market's made privately, right? But my question to piggyback on that is, would you be able, if I, the individual, created that market, would other users be able to participate in that as well?
Yes.
That is so awesome.
That's the explosive thing. And if you think of our strategy for using the Bracky token, is that it's complicated to figure out how to provide the liquidity efficiently for these kinds of niche markets. It hasn't really been done, right? So we have a big fat stack of liquidity to play around with that and to figure that thing out. Like we have runway to figure that problem out by doing all the bets in the native Bracky token. So dude, yes, this is, you just hit on like, where we want to get is bet, like by the time we're in Twitter and like the sort of medium term version of the product is, bet against Bracky about anything in sports, and then get your friends to do that, right? Like get your friends in, they could take one side or the other on that bet. It's just out there for everybody to do. And the thing about the against, like you mentioned it earlier, like what does it mean? I think that it's really fun to have an experience of trying to negotiate with AI. Like you didn't see it yet, but it's actually really fun of like, Bracky goes on and does, and he has latitude to change his mind based on your argument. So it's really fun for you of like, you launch this market and then you're trying to get better odds on your first wager into that market. It's just like a really cool, novel way to experience the thing. And then, as you said, once that thing exists, you can go share it. And like, of course, like what we would really like to do with this, and there's nothing stopping it, is, if somebody starts a market, let them share in the success of that market. So if you start a market that goes viral, right, you can share in the fees that are created in that market. So then everybody wants to go.
Similar to how Ponder, if you create that, dude, that would be so sharp. If you had the ability, if like, let's say I have these prop bets in mind and I just hit Bracky up all day and say, you should make this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. And then one of them catches fire in virality. Then like, even if I win or lose, I'm still helping the bracket game by creating these markets. I still get some rev share or some vig off of that pot. I mean, that is truly decentralizing and building around a community like that. I mean, dude, that,
and it's like, how funny can you make it? Right. Like, so, and that's the thing is like, dude, the really cool thing is that it's like Bracky is going to have, it's an autonomous agent. What Bracky creates will literally be like at his discretion. So, I mean, these things, part of the fun of it is going to be like, what can I get Bracky to create? Can I get him to create like, how many times will Scott Foster call a foul, on, somebody
the opposing, like on the underdog team.
Like it just like you could take like a bet about like a referee, right? Like if it will be up to Bracky to like, can you convince Bracky to make that market? And then somebody can share, like, this is hilarious. Like, I've got this market going on, like, Shay, like the foul merchant. Like, how many
merchant? I love that nickname.
So it just like, I think there's the experience here is that, it having this negotiating experience, bringing people in. Like, the other thing I'm really excited about that we haven't done yet is like a preview of a product is like, how when you want to bet with your friend and like you're trying to figure out the terms, loop Bracky into the bet with your friend, right? And Bracky's actually arguing with you guys and he's going to help you make like your odds. Once that's out, that exists and everybody can participate in it.
That is so awesome. Think about how many times people that don't sports bet are trying to give themselves odds. Think of this. If you're on the golf course playing with a buddy,
yes,
and you're trying to figure out, you could still, in this case, use Bracky. It doesn't need to be an event. Yeah. It could literally be, hey, Tim and I are playing golf right now. I'm a 6, he's a 10. Like, what are the right odds for us to be able to like pay each other out in Bracky? And then there, in that case, like, think about it. If you are a golfer and you are on the golf course, how like, there's a smart contract involved. The payout just automatically occurs when, the end of the results are there, right? Like, it makes it simplifies things like that.
100%. That's the beer pong, like that. The beer pong bracky experience was about that, of like, like just what's it like to have a, fun prediction market experience like around something that we're just doing with our friends. And so I think your point about like this can ultimately be used for like any kind of fun social wagering that we want to do, is like that's the ultimate direction that we want to go.
And one thing that I want to point out too that just came to mind, Tim, is the fact that we have hardly talked in like the hour and a half that we've been going. How much have we really talked about blockchain or Web3? You know what I mean? And I think that's so special because it's an indicator for me at least, is like this is nothing. Of course, it's powered and it's
Yep.
supported by the
Yep.
technology, but it
Yep.
is not at the forefront of the conversation. This is a product that is going to be offered, and it fits the mold because it's not reliant on like the marketing aspect or talking about Web3. It's no, this is a community platform that is bringing sports to community in an innovative way. Like
Yes.
that in itself gives so much value to, like, if I'm going and trying to advocate to this for my friends.
Yes.
Oh, well, you don't need to be this like Web3 native person, and I think that is the appeal here.
Yep. Yep. I totally agree with you. This is what we strive for. And I think that just understanding that for most people, the crypto element, is a friction, not a draw, right? So like people just want to have a great experience. They don't want to worry about any of the other stuff. The only element for us, for a new person, that they would have to worry or think at all about crypto is I'm making my bets in the Bracky token. And so you bet with Bracky and Bracky. Now, here's the cool thing about that. The Bracky token, besides allowing us to provide the liquidity efficiently and to give people house money that they can just play with, right, and have fun before they have to, worry about anything, right? Besides those properties, the thing that's really cool about having a token that's useful is that once you start to use it, you're like, okay, like this is all happening in this Bracky thing, right? Which, by the way, like I can go swap it for dollars. And you're like, this thing runs on Bracky, like, oh man, everybody's going to love this thing. It creates this feeling of like, you don't even have to be like betting all the time to be a part of Bracky and a part of Bracket. Like, it's just like, I love this thing because I have this token now and I think it's going to win. That's like the most simple crypto value proposition that's fun, is I have this token that I think is cool and I can do stuff with it. And I have some upside on it, right? Like that's just I think of that as an actual value add to people's experience.
So one of the things like that's so cool about this is you built it, you generated off of Clanker, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so to add on to the point, if you think of Clanker and the tokens that are used off of it, a lot of them are just meme coins for the most part. I could be wrong, I'm still new, but like let's just call it that. Yeah. One of the most difficult things that I've seen in Web3 is the minute that you attach utility to a token, it tanks, right? It more often than not.
Yeah.
Creating utility for a token is such a difficult song and dance that you have to do. And for you to be able to sustain, so for me as an individual, like having Bracky, I'm still I look at it like I'm incredibly early, right? Like you're super, super early. So if I am just a speculator, like of meme coins or just tokens on chain, I'm looking at it like if it's sitting at a $3 million market cap and, if DChen's able to get close to $1 billion on market cap, like I'm pretty freaking early. So my bet, I'm still getting like that speculative like excitement off of holding the token. Whereas like I don't even need to be a participant in these markets that are being created. If I'm buying and holding Bracky, Bracky, I'm
Yeah.
winning. Like in
Yeah.
the long term, if I
Yes.
believe in like the founders and the product, and I don't even like to bet, I'm not even a good bettor. Shout out to Debbie. Like she could still hold Bracky for the long term and still see, the value gain on
Yes.
that.
I Jeff, I think it's really this insight that you have that like attaching utility is like is is somehow a uh like doing a token on hard mode. It's such a weird thing. It's so true. It's such a weird thing. But I think that like I can't tell you like I'm such a believer in it, dude. I'm like I don't care if it's hard or not. It's so fun to do something real with this stuff, right? Where it's like I love that when people get bracky, they're not just like, well, what's the point? No, the point is you can play with it. You can go do you can go take these positions and become part of these communities and get out there in public and flex like your positions that you have and like put skin in the game. I love it, dude. I'm just like, and it's also being used to power like super novel versions of prediction markets that can be like on these very niche tail events, right? So like it has that property. It's also being used as like a magical, uh, a magical customer onboarding tool, right? Of like people can start playing in their feed without having to go do anything. They don't have to go download DraftKings. They don't have to go download FanDuel. They're just there. We give them some token. They can start playing, right?
So
And yeah,
sorry to cut you off, Tim, but like with the marketing budget that you all have, are you budgeting in and saying, hey, like, look, this is marketing spend. This is a new user that I want onboarded. I'm going to allocate X amount of tokens to that person. Is that already premeditated and thought through pretty thoroughly?
yes, yeah. That is the purpose of the token that we own. We own about 30% of the supply. The purpose of that is precisely for providing liquidity to all kinds of different sizes and risk tolerances of markets so that you could do like you're like is Durant going to score 6 points in the last minute of the game or whatever edge thing you want, and also that if you if you look at what does this experience need to be, right? For me, it has to be absolutely frictionless to let people give it a try and have fun with it. So, meaning we need to give them something that they can use and has upside before they have to take any risk or they have to sign up or do anything.
And
Right.
the thing is, Tim, is that
So
feels
that for us,
impossible, though. That feels impossible as a founder to give away. Like, you don't see, like, if you truly believe in your product, that's the biggest test right there is like, you're literally giving. I think my onboarding experience, and I don't know if it's going to be the same for everyone else as you guys progress and scale up because the value of the token is going to get higher, like, as we all believe. But like, I got like $20 my first onboarding experience with. That's significant money. A lot of these founders are taking the risk of onboarding people with and they may like, and not to throw shade on them, they may not have the marketing budget, but like the fact is I'll get like 50 cents. And for me, I'm like, I'm not a believer in this. Like, no, and again, no shade, but like for you to like right off the bat, hey, here's 2 million. And I'm like, well, what's 2 million? It's always arbitrary. And then I look at the USD, I'm like, okay, like, wow, I'm going to like really concentrate on who I'm putting the bets on now because I could turn this into real money. You know what I mean? And so for as a use case and as an example to advocate for Bracky, I started out with 2 million and transparently when I was onboarded, I didn't put another dime in. I put it all on Florida and then during the Masters I put it on Justin Rose and sold out right before Rory won. And I think I turned that like 2 million into like 8 million. And then that becomes real money. And then I'm like, dude, I'm swapping into this. And there you go. There's the liquidity that I may have like earned, but hold. And then additionally, I'm throwing more ETH into Bracky. So that like right there is a use case where people like are truly believing not just the hold and the value of just holding Bracky, but like, dude, I could go make even more money off of it. You know what I mean? So like, that is so hard to do, I
Yep.
think. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
No, I mean, look, and the thing for us about the the token is that if um if people if people love this experience, they're going to be using their Bracky to play all kinds of stuff. And we have a small fee on each trade, right? So instead of doing a big or like stacking the odds, like our model is that when people make trades, there's a small fee in Bracky. And so,
You've
we
no reason to sell.
right? So
You as a company don't have to sell any tokens. Like, you're making your revenue off the transactions. Like, you have the ability to give tokens out. And while you're monitoring the revenue generated off your transaction fees, that's giving you a premeditated budget that you could spend on marketing to onboard.
yes.
Dude, what the that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's exciting. Like Jeff, everything that we do, I'm always just trying to think of like, how can we arrange this so that we're making a win-win for everybody? Like we just like, I mean, I think it, if you actually approach product building to like, how can we make something that like can really can be positive sum, right? And isn't just trying to like extract or maximize as much as we can. And I think um when you start to think in that mindset of like we only like to do things that are transparent and will also benefit the community and also create fun and create social experiences. And like, just had somebody come up to us and is like, I used to hate that you guys had these share limits, like that you would cap the bet size that I could make. But they're like, now I've come to love it because I'm never putting in more than I feel like I could lose. But I also see that this is letting you attract in other people and we're more on an equal plane and it's making it more of a communal thing for us. And it's just like, I think there's just lots of stuff like this that's counterintuitive, but
I completely forgot about that element, and I had the same visceral reaction where I'm capped at how much money I can put in. Jeff, it's for your own good. Like, you do not need to go and spend more than you have to. And for you guys to put those guardrails, typically regulation is a difficult thing that I don't like. But for you to be able to put something that is, again, the opposite of predatory, you're actually encouraging people to participate without like throwing an entire bag at it. That's amazing.
yes. And dude, like, so to build on that point, like I also don't, I think that I'm a big believer in people making their own choices. Like, I don't think that, I know or we know what other people should do. So the reason that the share limit exists is that because it's a prediction market, in markets of these size where it's it's a certain number of people in a community using the thing, if we didn't have the share limit, then like one person
could take the entire market, take all the liquidity.
It takes all liquidity. It doesn't allow other people to get skin in the game on their team, and then they can also tank the price whenever, right? So I think that like the truth of it is that the share limit thing is a combination of we want a lot of people to have fun with it, not just one person to get their fix on the thing. And as the markets get bigger, that share limit will be able, this is why they increase throughout the game. You can take bigger and bigger positions because more and more people come in. The cool thing, dude, is again, the mind blowing thing is like Bracky, the AI will manage that. We are learning how to do that so we can train Bracky to manage those limits so it will be a healthy market every
So you're telling me that you're relying on Bracky to determine when to expand the market. That is so, dude.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So it's like an autonomous market maker where Bracky can be seeing based on how many people are in and these goals that we have, what should we make the share limit at these different times? So like that's how we can do anything from like, if you're, let's say there's like you're doing a golf scramble, but you're a golf influencer and they see that you and this other golf influencer are playing skins, right? And you're going to live stream it or something. The thing is that market starts out as two people, but when Bracky sees a bunch of new liquidity coming in from a bunch of sources, the share limit get up and up and up, right? So then people can. So the point is that like as these markets go viral or whatever, there will be a mechanism for them to like expand and contract as will be like healthy for the social experience.
I can't, I didn't even think of that aspect about the capping, because it's allowing you all to determine how much shares you're going to have to expense during the process too. And you have to protect your, and that was one of my questions going back, is like, okay, that 30% treasury that you all have, is that going to be enough to sustain? And I'm not even thinking on the back end, there are winners and losers, and those losers, unfortunately, that is cap. Well, that's, going back into that treasury, I would imagine, right?
Yeah, I mean, the way the prediction market works is that actually, the the it it's essentially like the losing players' bets are funding the winning players.
Okay.
So,
Oh, right. That's the balance.
so whatever the the winnings of the if the Pacers win against the Knicks, it's all the value that was locked in by the Knicks bettors throughout the series is the amount that can be won by the Pacers bettors. So like the nice thing about prediction markets is that they're really just a way of uh, efficiently uh, efficiently allowing people to pool together uh, their predictions or wagers about a certain thing.
So there's, but so, okay, for example, and forgive the ignorance here, but if I were to do one of those small markets that I create, like one of those prop bets with Bracky, and no one else is on the other side of that bet, that would then just be me versus Bracky, and that would then be coming from the treasury, correct?
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So,
And Jeff, that's the one where can Bracky be as good as a book? And so
damn,
like
man, that's a bit of a risk. Like you're really
yeah,
like that's
yeah.
crazy.
And
I love it. You have to,
yeah,
but
no,
yeah.
in this case, I mean, I think that your ability to access pre-existing knowledge, where it's like, on most of these things, you can scrape to find what are the odds of X, Y, and Z. And for Bracky, I think that what it will come down to is that uh, the more unprecedented a certain thing is, the harder it will be to convince him to do the market. It doesn't mean he can't or won't, but like it's going to be. So Bracky is trained. His goal is to um is to grow the network of Bracky users and his treasury of Bracky as much as possible. That's his goal. That's what he's trained on. So he wants people to play, but he doesn't want people to play if it's going to be draining. It's going to be draining
It needs
his
to be
treasury.
advantageous to him to be able to
Exactly.
make that market. So if I am confident it's really this element of like human versus AI where I'm
Yes.
going in and saying, no, I think I have an edge. I have signal on this. Let's see if Bracky can pick up on it.
Yes.
And there may be insider info that I have on some lacrosse game or whatever that I'm going to go take this bet, this little nuanced bet. But
Yes.
Bracky has the ability to turn down that market.
Exactly, dude. And if you can get him to do it, see, that's part of the fun is can I get him to make that market? And so I think that just the layers of fun, the human versus machine is a very, very fun element of this, of like people like to these new challenges that are interesting and novel. And the challenge here is like, can I get one over? And look, about losing the money, the way that I think about it is it's it's a my thinking is if people are coming in here trying to spend time to get our AI agent Bracky to create these crazy markets, and they're having a great time, and they're like mad if it doesn't happen, they're excited if it does happen. My thinking is like, if we're losing money on that, Bracky money on that, who cares? because we're creating a truly novel experience for people that's unlike anything they can do.
And
Right?
here to add
That's the
on to that, Tim, here's another thing just to keep piggybacking on how awesome it is if I lose and I'm a holder, then theoretically I should not be losing more than I'm willing to lose, right? Just out of baseline believe that. So if I do lose, who's it going into the hands of? It's not PvP where it's someone that's about to rug the entire coin. It's going in where Bracky is now holding the float even more in that case, which is going to then inevitably cause it to go up because there's more. If assuming that you're onboarding net new users, net new like liquidity going in, but it's being held in this treasury. So yeah, like that the loss doesn't sting as much even on that other element. Is like if I am a majority, like if majority of my tokens in my wallet are in Bracky, well then guess what? Even that loss where I did get exposure to a little bit of risk to increase my position in Bracky, okay, well I'm actually like still contributing in some weird way of looking at it to the entire project.
And Jeff, this is where I think this is like this when we experimented with Super Bowl NFL playoffs where it was person versus Bracky. It wasn't the shares markets like right before you came in. And that's the thing that I saw, dude, was that like, first of all, really fun to negotiate against Bracky, where he's like, I'm going to give you like 2-to-1 odds on this. And like, will you give me like, 1.8 to 1, or I'm going to give you 2.5 points. Will you give me 3.5 or, whatever, right? Like it's super fun. But the other thing that I witnessed very quickly was that, when Bracky beat somebody, they were recasting and quote casting that and be like, holy shit, like this AI is so smart. I love Bracky. Why? Because they were early of being in on this thing and they have some of the tokens. So they lost, but they won because it's awesome. Right. So it's this thing where you can align. I love the like meta game of this of it doesn't feel, again, it's a positive sum thing.
You're finding a way to mitigate the feeling of like, a bummer attitude after a loss. Like it's not like, because if I'm betting against FanDuel, I know exactly where that money's going. You know what I mean? Like, but because I have a stake in this by owning the token, I don't feel as bad. And I'm watching an agent improve itself. So as long as I am holding a position, the bet is that in the long term, as this thing improves, so even if I find a niche market to bet on it and it somehow does like take the bet and I win, okay, great. I earn more Bracky, but also at the same time, Bracky just got smarter. And Bracky's now learning from that experience of how to make better odds for it to benefit. So while I am early, I'm still training this agent to improve its ability to compete in a market making. Like, I mean, I don't even know if you guys have explored that thought as well, but the fact of the matter is you have found a way to make net positives for both sides of this. And I mean, even from the transaction fee perspective, like it doesn't feel like when I see a bet go in, it's not to this like greedy amount that it's going in, right? Like there's so many different factors that I think have made this so attractive. I mean, again, and here's the thing. It's the target audience. Sorry, last thought. It's like the target audience is very small right now. Like you just have really the far and strategically, but like it's just the Farcaster community. As you scale out, you've built it at the fundamental core of like good people that are receptive, like I'm generalizing, but like people that really understand and have bought into the like belief of this like good-hearted social element that is like also subsequently a part of sports betting. Whereas it's not the reverse end, but as you scale out, I believe that because the core foundation of this is built on a really strong, positive community, you're going to be able to scale out where it's not this like negative culture that sports betting kind of has with it.
Yes, exactly. I think it's trying to, I mean, I would, one of the things that appeals to me the most about crypto in its best form, it's about, if you think about what Bitcoin does, Bitcoin channels each miner's private interest to try to get something for themselves to create this new beneficial thing, which is a database that nobody can censor because it's not in any miner's individual interest to be able to change the truth of it. So it's a really cool thing in crypto where it's like it's an example of how something people doing things for themselves can create these like real public goods. Another one that's exciting to me is like Polymarket, people having skin in the game about every different news event, whatever's going on, elections, etc. What's it creating from their selfish interest? It's creating information, like really powerful information that outpredicted every news channel. And so I'm just like a big believer in just because somebody might be doing something for like a bit of a private gain, it doesn't mean that we can't figure out ways to harness that energy to have fun with your friends that you're either betting against or for on these games, to be a part of like feeling like you're winning when AI is improving instead of just AI is replacing everybody. It's like, no, I'm riding an AI train as it grows and advances in its knowledge and ability to do stuff. It's like so much fun stuff you can create that aligns people's incentives, lets them compete, but also creates like kind of public goods and positive stuff.
And yeah, and you nailed it on the head there. And I was just going to end that thought by saying benefit the end user, right? Like give the end user something that is a net positive. At the end of the day, if you are, as long as you are holding and not betting more than you can budget, yes, you should be making money. I know I don't want to guarantee anything, but like that's the premise, is like as people continue to scale in and you hold, there you go. It's kind of cooked into it all. So
exactly. And I think the thing is too, of like the ultimate fun thing is and a lot of people who gamble feel this way. It's like, you easily experience this at Churchill Downs. Most people don't leave. 90% of people, right, who go to Churchill Downs a couple times a year, where I'm from, go a couple times a year. They aren't leaving the track counting how many dollars they won or lost. Exactly.
They're not leaving happy.
But yeah. Typically they're losing, right? But in no matter what, it's like we had a fun time because we were cheering really hard on each of those races, and it was like we're hanging out, and then there's something to watch, and like they had this and I had that, and my horse won this one. That was crazy moment, right? It's about like how much fun you can have during that experience by creating some skin in the game and being with other people.
And that's what you've captured, is like you're taking the market, but you're capturing the positives from it, right? It's a friendly experience. Whereas like when my visceral reaction to you talking about Churchill Downs is also looking at like the experiences I've had going to like Del Mar or Santa Anita, like the tracks, is like I watch my dad and my uncle go, and more often than not, they're leaving unhappy because you know what? It's really freaking hard to bet. And I'm not saying they're horrible. Like they're actually pretty good at it. But the fact of the matter is more often than not, you're losing, and you're losing a large amount if you're doing it in that capacity. So what you've done is you've taken that element out of it. Whereas the people that are just bystanders going for the event, going for the occasion of like the social element, and you've brought that on chain. Like that
Jeff,
is like
you really get it. But I get a lot of people who give feedback, that when they're annoyed at first is they think what we're doing is about trying to compete against and create like the sharpest experience, right? And I think that's actually, I think it's really well served, right? To be honest, like it's really well served. And people who want to do that, they're finding it, they're doing it. The new thing to create, and the thing that I feel excited to create, is how can we create that the 90% of people who go to the track to have once a year to have this really fun time together. It's that spirit is what we're trying to capture.
This is how I would categorize it. If betting like heavily, being a true handicapper, I would call it that like a rated R experience. And what Bracky is, and this is not a bad thing in my opinion, I love it. I think it's more like PG, and at most PG-13. It's like
Yes.
you have taken that like X-rated element out of the sports betting, and you've taken all of the things that make it like the joy. Yeah,
Yes.
and that is so that is yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's cool. I mean, I think, and it's a conscious choice by us to not try to optimize for the big money, big pocket user. And there's a lot of pressure to do that because people are like, that's where that's where the real liquidity is coming from. But like, for us, it's a genuine belief that number one, that's well served, right? That's not a competitive, novel, differentiated experience. But number two, like we want to make something that we're proud of and that's adding value and adding joy and fun into people's life and not depleting it. Right. Like, so it's, that like, I can't tell you the most fun thing that I hear and see is like your story about the NBA, of like being jaded about it, but it's fun again, or a new person getting to know a new sport. That for me, when they're really like, damn, like F1 is truly like amazing to watch. I never just logged in and did it. And it's like the ability to do that and like connect with other people around it. That's the thing. We're all looking to have fun experiences like this with other people. So that's, there's all this other stuff. I think there's these business, um, there is like, we want to create this fun and we were doing it with Bracket, but we realized like, hey, we got to meet people where they are. We got to facilitate a frictionless experiment. We got to make every, wager is also an advertisement. We got to figure out how to get into any platform. We got to let people, do this stuff and pull their friends in. There's like a lot of pieces of this that you're solving, unique business problems, but it all fits into like, what's the end experience that you're proud of creating? And I think that it's really underrated, as, as a, as a founding team. It's not just the stuff you say yes to, but it's the stuff you say no to. And, this stuff can be really tempting because like we could figure out how to make a much sharper product. We could optimize for that sort of user and that sort of experience. And people are like, I can get those people in, and you can, we can do that right away and it can work. And I think it's sort of, there's just moments where it's like you stick to what you believe in and the kind of thing that you want to make and you just go for it.
And I think I was probably a part of that group as well, telling you like, oh, we could get this person involved or that person involved. And then as I've even over the past couple of weeks been able to experience this, I'm like having that aha moment of, oh, okay, like this makes way more sense now, and I think what you've done very well of, and it's going to be incredibly challenging, especially as you scale into X, you're bringing an entirely different culture into this game, into this platform, and being able to stand firm as a founding team to say like, no, we're not going to break, and we're not going to start inviting that team in, or team rather, culture or like group in, to this thing. It'll change and bring a different element that may take the like sanctity away from what Bracket is becoming.
Yeah. And it's just, I think it's sort of like the, 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 who you optimize for is always a choice. And I don't have anything of like, I don't think it's like right or wrong. I mean, I think it's also, you can have a lot of fun as, a high leverage bettor and like, but I do think that there's an element of this of, that it's really well served. So I don't want to compete in that market anyway. Right. And then there's the second thing of like, I'm not excited. I'm not excited about like taking somebody who's not a high leverage bettor and like encouraging them to become that. Right. Like if people want to do that, go for it. But like, I'm not excited about the outcome of what we're making to be creating more of that. That's just not that's not the thing that I'm like, uh, uh, that I feel very proud of to do. I'm not, if other people are doing it, whatever, but like what I am really happy about is somebody discovering they love a sport, somebody like creating a rivalry with their friend, somebody getting into the game that they hadn't gotten into, or like starting to like love some player or team or experience like that. That to me, every time that happens, I just think that that's pure benefit,
And
right? Like,
that's what you've created, right? And I know we've talked about this ad nauseum almost, but like that is something that is really difficult to capture. You heard my like actual testimony to like what bracket has been to me. And I think that that everyone's going to have a unique experience and story of what brought them to bracket, but none of it, in my opinion, is going to be, oh, because I made a shit ton of money on an awesome prop bet that I did. You know what I mean? Like that, it could be, but what I think you've done is you've brought an element. What you've done for me is you brought all of the things that I'm passionate about. And it's a rare niche because I don't think there's a lot of people that love sports the way that I do, that you do, that are also a Web3 native or at least like a Web3 enthusiast, right? So one thing that I was really excited about is like I consider myself like a sports fan. Great. But there isn't an audience really in Web3 that's really attracted to sports. Maybe DGen stuff, but not sports. So like the element of betting, it's like, okay, I understand betting. I'm not a great bettor, but I get it. So like taking those two things, putting it on chain, having a token affiliated, that's like a perfect situation for me, right? That's really hard to come by. So I think that's what introduced me. That's what made me like get enticed. But then I'm staying, like, so that's what brought me. But what's keeping me there is not the element of making money, because in reality, and I know you know this, money line, if I were to just bet money line on games, right? Like I could get a better return at a FanDuel or DraftKings, right? It's just the objective truth. But what kept me is the fact that like you've built a culture and community surrounding the sport. And I
yeah,
think that's so special. And
yeah,
that's what's going to continue to send this thing into the stratosphere of like, you're just capturing all of the like beautiful moments of sports and putting it in the community. Like,
exactly.
yeah, there's skin in the game, but not enough to hurt you. Right.
Totally.
Like, oh, like I'm getting a couple extra bucks, but dude, I got to shit talk Garrett when the
Yes.
Timberwolves won by 40. You know, like
Yeah.
that is the element that I think is so special, which is
By
going to
the way,
scale this
like
thing out.
and it's gonna get really exciting when Bracky's able to call you out for the amazing trade that you made. Like that nobody got a higher multiple than you on trade X. And it's not because of how much money you put in, but like the flexing, the social elements, like who else is in. That stuff is going to become more and more powerful. Also, imagine getting a notification. You know, you have a Scheffler position. Imagine hearing from Bracky like, you know, at Jeff, 2 holes left, Scheffler's up by one. Like you might want to turn it on, right? Like this, you know, just the stuff like this, like, you know, so and so Norin hit in the water, right? Like these kinds of like moments of fun that are going to be in public. It's gonna,
Recast it,
yeah,
then you can tag someone that has that position in it. It's the social element that you've captured, man. And it's also welcoming audiences from different, you know, backgrounds that may not be familiar with that sport. I mean, the opportunity in that itself is crazy. And if you can quantifiably show people like who has been introduced to a sport that hadn't in the past, and not to get too far ahead of myself, but that information is invaluable to these organizations that are begging for new audience, that are trying to find a way to like get in front of new eyeballs. Look at what the NBA has done with China. They would have never imagined like the opportunity that existed in Asia. You know, it really started with Jordan in 92, like with his Barcelona Olympics. When he went, that is when the world really, like when he put that dominating dream team on the stage, that's when everyone was like, eyeballs, what is this? And then after that, virality and exponential growth for the NBA. And then Kobe with China, like when he did his tour. Like, so I think what Bracky's doing is like, again, not to get too far ahead of myself, but you're opening yourself up for the opportunity, right, to bring audiences to organizations that would have never gotten that exposure in the past. Again, I understand where we're at the ground floor right now and it's just getting going, but you're opening yourself up for the opportunity to be an information source for these organizations too, because it's also all on chain. This is stuff that like is invaluable information too.
Yep.
In that aspect as well.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I think that that it's when you create something real, and I think giving people interest in engaging people in an experience that they love is just a real thing. It's just going to connect. It's going to connect a lot of dots. So we're really excited to, I think, just, make it comes down to believing that sports themselves are a net positive, right? Like like a lot of what we do and why we love what we do and build is just the belief that when I see somebody get a new favorite sport, I'm just kind of am purely happy that happened, because it's like I know that this person's just going to get a lot of fun moments that they can share with other people, and excitement and analysis around this new hobby, right?
And the thing that's so cool, you're talking about all the positives that sports brings, right? Think about, as a founder, think about the element of like leadership. Think about having to work with a team, having to know how to play to each other's strengths, knowing when to sit back, knowing when to be held accountable for mishaps or setbacks, but also knowing how to sing praises to your teammates, but also the element of being a coach. Like, you have those like experiences as a kid growing up, where the coach is then talking down to you. What is it that they're saying? It's not how they're saying it, it's what they're saying that you need to take away from that. There's so many things, like just from a cultural standpoint of like building something, being a part of a team is invaluable information that you get to obtain from an early start to life. There's that aspect. There's the health aspect of it. If you're out and you start a new sport, most likely you're going to be active. If you're picking up, remember the pickleball frenzy, everyone was playing pickleball. You know why that was great? It was pretty annoying, but at the same time, it's getting people out of their, apartments during COVID.
I think
there's that element. And one thing that I know we're going, we're definitely way longer than I anticipated this conversation going. But dude, the one thing that I think is so cool that hasn't even been touched on yet is the element of you making a market for games that you're playing outside. It could be darts, it could be pool, it could be a pickleball game. Bracky can make that market for you and a friend. I don't know what the element is, what could be cool, and sorry to give alpha here, and you could have already thought about it, but it's with that smart contract that's created, if you're tagging your friend and making that market, you can put that money before the game even starts. You can put that bracky into that smart contract. And when you both almost like a multi-sig, when you both agree upon that the game is over, then one end or the other can receive that money. There are so many things that you can do with this, man.
100%. This is why I was sort of mentioning the beer pong. We ran speaking of pickleball, we ran a big pickleball tournament for bracket last time, dude,
in Venice, right at FarCon.
Yes.
Yeah, Kojo was talking about it, and he was like, "Dude, you would not believe the people at the front gate were like, you, how much money? What are you talking about?" So,
and I think that the thing there is that when you have an audience of people, let's say you're at the family reunion playing cornhole, and all of a sudden there's a market on that. What does it do? It turns the people playing into being in an arena, because everybody who's betting on them's cheering now. Dude,
how fun was that element in the beer pong tournament? Is everyone around, especially as a player? I'm like, dude, I haven't played in 10 years. Thank goodness Coop was actually really good. But everyone coming up and being like, "Hey man, I got a couple bucks on you, be careful." And then seeing the notifications after and seeing all of the people that were betting, buying, selling, even for Garrett and Tyib, seeing how many people were I knew it, because at the very beginning somehow they got the best odds, you know what I mean? That element of bringing what a player feels like on the big stage and bringing that to the micro, that's such a cool element that I haven't even thought of.
Yeah, we found that with bracket, and I mean, I think that it's the ability of, what this can look like if people can bring this together in their social feeds is going to be even more powerful, because it can just
Crazy.
be, it can just be about, like, somebody was telling me, like, oh, we needed Bracky for, there was like a concert, that, like, a kind of house music concert that was supposed to happen. There's a bunch of people on Twitter who love it, and they're all just like, oh, I'm not liking the vibe here. Like, I think they're going to cancel. And other people are like, no, they're not going to cancel. I'm like, yes, they are. And they were just like, dude, if Bracky could just come in and, like, make a market about whether they actually show up and do the concert or not, like, there would have been like 1,000 people who would be totally into that. And I think there's just like there's so much stuff. If you can meet people without friction, put this stuff together in a well functioning way, I think creating arenas is totally unexplored. And the agent is very helpful for this, because if you think about, like, spinning that up, like, with a front end product, we looked into it. Because we were running this without an agent. It's just like, with an agent, you're just like, hey, at Bracky, here's the teams. Boom, 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 boom. Bracky spins up that market and it's just functioning, right? You don't have to go use some complicated app and, like, fill in all the stuff. You just do it right there. So yeah, this is another look. As you can tell, there's enough, at all the branches we've gone down. I mean, I think what I love about this is that there's so many pieces that are fun to build and create as experiences, that this is what makes it so exciting for our team, is that it just feels like there's years of stuff to work on, and just like, because you can see all the exciting things that can unlock, and new exciting experiences, novel experiences that you can make. And that's what I'm really excited about, is just like,
What's really cool about it too, Tim, sorry to cut you, is that you're kind of like this. I look at you as like the Sherpa of this. I don't see you as some, like, you know, overbearing founder that's like, we have to, like, follow this regiment. This is really, like, from the sounds of it and the way that it's been designed, there's like a community element to it, and it's community driven, where you're putting the power in our hands by saying, you go make a market, you go determine what's of value. Like, I'm just sitting here building an audience and a platform for you to go play in.
dude, if you look at the way that I like to lead in that sense, is by being a model user. That like, that's why I'm just trying to have fun in public, playing around with the stuff that we're building. And so I think that's the vibe, is it's about, like, what you can do with this stuff yourself. Yeah, so I mean, I think everything's more powerful when you're figuring out how to activate people's own interests and autonomy. And by the way, I also do this with Bracky. And this is a kind of a funny thing, but, like, I even think of myself as an empowerer of Bracky. It's an interesting mindset, but it's like, our design principle is that what's interesting about AI is not the things that we can force it to do. It's the things that we can empower it to do, that it creates exciting things we wouldn't have known about, thought about, or planned. And so, like, that element, even with Bracky, is like, when we're designing Bracky, we create a lot of moments where we don't know what Bracky will decide on X, Y, and Z, because we want to invest in the AI being able to figure out a lot of that stuff, because it's more powerful and it's also more fun. It's more fun that you don't know always exactly what's going to happen in terms of, like, will he make this market or not? So yeah, there's, like, a lot of ways we're investing in kind of the exploration and just different layers of autonomy.
Well, you can tell. I mean, from the beginning of when I was onboarded, and this is I think the craziest thing with the element of AI, is when I was onboarded and I was interacting with Bracky, it was good. I mean, it was enough for me to be like, okay, this is a good experience. Now, I mean, more recently, I think it was like last night or the night before, it's remembering the fact that I was on the bracket. I had my own beer pong team. It's correlating that to previous bets that I've made. It's building a relationship with me, which is at the same time a little like frightening, but it's like it remembers me and it interacts with me, and I'm not just this like it's trying to put pieces together of me beyond just like what my bets are. It's trying to understand me as an individual, and that is crazy. That's so crazy.
Yeah. We invest. I mean, by the way, we've got an upgrade coming that is making that stuff 10 times better, literally. So I'm super, there's just so much, but I think that the AI piece to me, is that there is an element of the performance art piece of people getting to watch an AI evolve through something specific that they understand and are interacting with. It's a piece of this that I'm super, super excited about, because I think that there is a huge value to letting, that's like another meta piece of this, is like letting people push the boundaries and see what AI is capable of, because it's going to be evolving a lot. Like whenever there's a new upgrade, we're plugging in the power of the new model into our existing system. And so we're going to be growing like with the rate and pace of the AI itself. And that's just not just exciting for us as a business, but I'm also like, I'm excited about people who aren't building with AI. They're going to be interacting with Bracky and like learning and seeing what AI can do from this experience. I think that that's like going to be fun and important.
It's important, and I think there's a lot of lessons to take away, not only from this conversation, but just Bracky in general, of how to utilize the technology that's in front of you. And I think what you all have done in such a efficient way is you're taking all of the new elements that are out there and applying it. So you're being incredibly resourceful. Going back to the beginning of the conversation of how can you innovate? How can you be creative? How can you lower your costs, but still be as efficient, if not more efficient than competition that's out there? And it's taking the Web3 element, creating your own token. So now you're creating your own microeconomy. It's taking AI, making yourself as efficient as possible by utilizing the resources you have around you. But because you've been able to incorporate all of that into the one thing that you're building, it's allowing you to skyrocket with 3 people on your team. I mean, if you were to look not 5 years ago, like 5 years ago, if you were trying to build this thing out in the manner that you're doing, impossible. You would need to have at least like double the size of your team in order to back end this thing. And you just don't. And I mean, those are the things where I keep referring to this, but like Sam Altman came out the other day and was like, we will see in the next like couple of years, if not one individual making $1 billion corporation. And I think with that, it's like, hey, you got to get up to speed or you're going to be left in the dust. And there's a lot of value to take out of even an example like Bracky. And again, not saying you're the $1 billion corporation right now, but you're trying to like hit that level. And it's not about, I don't get the vibe from you that it's about money. It's about bringing an experience to these individuals at a massive scale. And it's felt. It's totally felt when you're playing. It's totally felt within your community. It's totally felt with like even the little experience of interacting with Bracky, how much intricacy there is involved with like how much like you pay attention to the details. So I could not be more bullish or excited about what you all are building. I'm so excited, man. As an end user, as a friend, as like whatever. It's just been the coolest experience, and it's so fortunate that like you were one of the first apps that I was introduced to. Like you and Ponder were the first like 2.
That's amazing.
So to be able, and this is another thing about the reach of Farcaster, and I'll shut up, but it's like I reached out to you, I reached out to Kojo, immediate response, immediate receptiveness, immediate like however I can help. Where else are you going to get that? Because it isn't on Twitter. It's not on X.
Totally. And I think that's like a great, we started off talking about the power of Farcaster, and like this, it really is a great place to wrap it as a takeaway message for people, like anybody who made it this far, we love you.
Like for real.
Anybody who made it this far, they're basically a part of our friendship now. So
that's right.
DM us. But I think that like about the way that you grew on Farcaster so quickly, because it's wild that you've only been here a couple months, it's a testament to Farcaster, but it's also like the approach that you use is the one that I see to work, which is go and reply to interesting stuff that you see with real, genuine thoughts, questions, ideas. Go engage without expectation. So like my thing I always say is like, go find something interesting, make an interesting contribution or question, follow the person right away, right? And Farcaster is a great place where they'll usually respond, go deeper, follow you back. Then you can DC. And I would always say like set up, like we were DCing, like we were talking about Bracky, like we're hanging out, we're like texting, like go form. If you think somebody is cool, see if you can get on a 15-minute call with them, like use their product, give them feedback. It's just, if you really invest, in a few months, you can have people who like are on your side within Farcaster. And once you're there, like this is my playbook for because you're doing Startup Radar, there's going to be other startups who want to break into the Farcaster ecosystem. And the number one thing I would say is just sort of like invest some time in getting to know people in Farcaster and replying and having conversations and having calls without expectation of return. Invest a few months in that, and I promise you, by the time you launch your app, you'll have 10 people who want to use it. You'll have 10 people who want to share it with their friends. They'll give you feedback. If there's something there, you're going to have your first users. So like to kind of go back to the tactics of it, a mistake I see startups making in Farcaster is to think, oh, Farcaster has active users. I'm going to just come in and my first cast is going to be about use my mini app, please. Right? It's like, I don't even care how big you are. It just, without any connections at all to people, I'm not seeing that happen. So I would just like highly recommend people to budget in some time to authentically hang out, send casts, send replies, get DM people, get to know people, try their products, give them feedback, right? And it just like, if they do that for a few months, I think they're going to have like an incredible experience of having a community they can distribute to. So that would be my parting advice is like, I think I've seen big companies come in and think that like, oh, Farcaster's huge. I heard from X, Y, and Z that they got their first 100 users from there. We're just going to go do that. You have to invest. Like you have to do what you did, right? Like
I wasn't even pointing to me. I'm actually pointing at QuickNode. Yeah. And not to throw, I could not be happier with my experience at QuickNode. But the minute that I got on Farcaster, I was like enamored at the ability to connect with individuals like yourself so quickly. And so I went to the marketing team. I shouldn't even be saying this. I may have to edit this out, but I went to the marketing team at QuickNode and I'm like, guys, why are we not on Farcaster? Like we have to have a presence here. Look at how like, and this wasn't even because for me, like I'm on the GTM team at QuickNode. That's my full time. That's my 9 to 5. And that's what keeps the lights on. But like, my job at first when I started, I was like, oh man, this is an opportunity to like win business and bring clients over to QuickNode. Like why wouldn't and they're like, like no one's on there. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to fight this. And you know what? I'm actually going to get away from even trying to be like a node provider and sell like a service. Like that's not even what I want to do anymore, because my true passion is like VC startup life. Like that's where I come from. That's why I came into Web3. So as I got here, just like best advice I ever got from a mentor is to just stay in the traffic, right? Like be in the traffic. If you want to be a part of this, you have to just be there and opportunities and doors will open. And that takes time. So furthering your point,
totally agree.
I came in and I didn't think of Startup Radar. And like, I'm not even saying that I've made it or that I even have this like massive audience. I'm not even claiming that. but I came in off of just sheer passion and desire to like be a part of it. Right. So to your point about founders that are coming in here, if you want to get in touch, if you want to build an audience, it has to be authentic. Like you have to truly have a passion. If you're in here with this, like, and this is what's tough with culture right now is everything is instant gratification. And the minute that you don't get it, you're going to pout, you're going to complain, point the finger and say, the only reason why you're like having success on here is because you got lucky. And it's like, okay, like, great. I will take that on the chin and you keep thinking that way. I'm going to keep thinking my way. I'm going to keep building. I'm going to see where this thing comes from, like just to stay in the traffic. And, man, like I hope founders take on to the advice that we're giving because the platform, it's ripe for the picking. Farcaster has an audience and a place for you to build and grow at a fraction of the cost of any other social media platform.
Yeah. And dude, I love the stay in the traffic. And I think that people who come here and churn the moment that they don't get the traction that they thought they were going to, I look at that as this makes me think of the second point is like, come in with a mindset of what you can contribute in addition to what you can get out of it. So like that's the other piece is like, if you come in and you're just like upset that you didn't get the users to use your product or whatever, that attitude is probably why people didn't gravitate toward you in the first place. Within Farcaster, like positive energy and contribution without expectation is really appreciated. Really, really
100%.
appreciated. So like you coming in and using and like showing a positive spirit about our product and talking to other people about it and casting about it and coming to the bracket group and giving me feedback and telling me why you loved it and understanding it. That was just all contribution, right? And I think that that's such a good spirit. So it's like to tie our point together, it's like be in the traffic of Farcaster, invest some time, but think about how you can get yourself into a mindset of what can I contribute here, right? Whether it's good ideas or feedback or good conversation, use people's products, talk about what you liked about with it. Like hugely valued in Farcaster. And so I think when you do that, you're going to be paid back for that contribution like tenfold.
That's exactly right, man. I think this is a great note to end on and a nice parting piece of advice for anyone that did make it this far. We love you so much.
Anybody who made it, they should just get some.
We got to reward them some. We got to reward them some bracky. We got to do something.
You should get a special pass into some group chat that we have. Dude, if anybody gets this and you made it to the end, just send
3
us.
hours. This is so much longer than any other one that I've recorded so far, and it, that speaks volumes. But dude, this has been.
But if you got to the end, DM us or cast at us, and we'll get like a special like survivors group chat.
Yeah,
part of the clan.
Exactly. No, that works. But yeah, let's. I'll click end on this, but I would love to talk to you for like 5 more seconds.
Yeah.
Just to say thanks and all that. But anyway, thank you everyone that listened. This has been a blast, Tim. Thank you so much.
Yes, dude. Later, man.
Talk to you.